All right, so if I don't have any questions on that, I do want to go over that submit button that we talked about in the last class. A few of you got stuck on the submit button for that gym flyer. So let me open up and I'll show you this. I actually think we kind of had some questions about how this worked. So some of you all tried to work with the buttons. So let me make sure I'm in my workspace first. So this is regarding the assignment for creating the form fields, and we ended with needing to create that submit button, and some folks got stuck. So let me make sure that I'm in my correct workspace. I am not, so I'm going to switch over to the interactive for PDF workspace. Again, this is for that previous assignment, so if any of you all had trouble with that, we're going to go over that submit button again. So switching to that interactive workspace. So the issue folks were having was that when you exported the file as an interactive PDF, that the word submit was being hidden behind the button. And the reason that happens is because that export option wants to move your interactivity to the top. It wants to make sure it's not being lost. So that happens in the export. So even if you put the word submit over a button, it's going to move that button to the top. It's going to move whatever has the interactivity attached to it to the topmost layer. So it's all about grouping. So what we talked about as a solution for the last class was to draw your own, right? So if I were to draw my own button here, we'll put a color on that. We'll type the word submit. Every time, every time I put that in a different order. Okay, select all. I'm going to go to my paragraph and center that to my character. I'm going to make that a little bit larger. Probably pick a better, well, that's a silly font, but it's bold enough for this. We'll center these to the page, and center. Center these to themselves. All right, so we've got just the basic of what we would need for a button. Of course, we can make it as cool and interesting as we would like. And then we can turn it into a button. Then I'm going to show you how to use, I want to just show you the basic way to do this first, and then I'll show you how we can use those pre-formatted buttons. So the key here is that we may have closed a window, hang on. So we're in our interactive workspace. I'm going to reset it. Okay, so that brings up our sample buttons. And then we're going to work with our buttons and forms. Okay, so we've got everything we need here. So we've got our buttons and forms. The first thing is we get it together with the shape and the words. And I'm just going to duplicate this so I'll have it handy for the next one, but I'm working on this top one up here. It needs to be grouped, and then you can go ahead and set what you're working on. So this will be a button. We're going to name it submit 1. On tap or release, we've got the actions of submit form. And then we can have that go to an email address, right? Mail to : Centern D at faytechcc.edu. All right, so that one should work now. Let's go ahead and do a quick export. Export as a PDF interactive. We'll name it button test and the date. Oops. And we're going to our desktop, that's fine. All of this should be good. We're going to view after exporting, so that PDF will just pop right up for us. All right, and you see, we see the word submit, we see the box, we can hit it, and it brings up the what default email browser do you want, that's fine. So that works. This works the way we expected it to. This doesn't work because we didn't apply anything to it. Okay, so that's easy enough. You can make it as cool or interesting as you want. But if we want to work with these sample buttons and forms, the key here is that you either work with it as is, or you need to remove the action that's happening. So they already have interactivity applied to them, right? So they're not, these buttons and these sample buttons and forms are not just, they're not just pretty, they're not just designed art for you to work with. They actually have functionality already embedded in them. So we can see that the button that I chose here has a go-to URL on it, and it's already got a link in there. So we don't want that, we have to remove it. And remember, we had trouble when we were talking about this on Monday at the end of class, we had trouble like ungrouping and trying to remove those features, right? So like maybe we can ungroup it, but it's not letting us ungroup. Maybe we can tap to get into isolation and work with it there, and that wasn't working, and we kept trying to put that submit on top of it. In even, let's send this to the back, arrange, we'll send the shape to the back, we'll center these to the page again. So we were, no matter what we did, we couldn't really get this undone. And it's a simple trick. Here we have to remove the interactivity that's been applied to it and then apply our own. And that's a quick little button right here. So can I zoom into that for you all? It's this button right here. So it says convert to object. So if you choose one of these sample buttons and forms, then you need to remove the interactivity that's applied, and you do that by clicking this convert to object, and then it takes it back to shapes, and then you would just go ahead and apply the interactivity that you want to use to it. Now if you wanted it to go to a URL, this would work fine, but you will lose the words on top because they're not part of it. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to hit convert to object. This action will delete content associated with the form fields. Other states continue anyway. Yes. You can see that that dotted line disappeared because that shows interactivity, and I'll just undo so you can see it. So that dotted line disappeared when we decided to convert to object, again with the warning. Now we know it's just a grouped object. We can go ahead and ungroup it. We'll ungroup it a couple of times until we know it is fully ungrouped. Shrink up this text box. Are you guys seeing what you need to see on the screen? I'm not sure that y'all are, I can't see what y'all are seeing.
Yes.
Oh, you are seeing it? Okay, good, because my little preview window was not showing it. Okay, good. All right, so what we did was we turned it back into objects, right? I've got a window up here that's supposed to be showing me what you guys are seeing. But I had a big white screen on it, so I wasn't sure you guys were seeing what I needed to, so thank you. All right, so keeping going here. So now we have this. I do not like to have the text box larger than our button, right? It needs to be the same size so it's not distracting. Again, now we group it, right? So if we were to just apply our own interactivity to the button, then we would still lose that text. So now that we've undone that, we've set our text, we're going to group those things together and we can apply what we need to the button. So we'll go, we're going to make a button. We're going to name this button good button. And then tap or release, we'll add that action of submit form, type in our mail to colon, then the email address, enter d@faytechcc.edu. And now this should work. So let's do another quick export. Well, first we need to make sure that one is closed. And now we will do a quick export of a PDF interactive to the desktop. Here we go. We know that one works. We're getting that little hand. And again, here too. So that works. Again, it's asking me for my default email application, and I don't have a default email on this computer because I use the web. So that is the fix for that. So for those of you who kind of got stuck on that, the answer here was if we're going to use these pre-formatted buttons, to be sure to convert to objects and then reset all of those elements. So taking a look at that PDF here, you can see the button is there, the text is in the front, and when we just hold our mouse over it, it says send the data to this email address. So we know that that's working. All right. So any questions on that? I know that was kind of some folks had some trouble with that and maybe went with the simple button starting from scratch rather than using those pre-formatted buttons. But now we know how to fix that. And again, just a reminder, it's about the layering and the that happens on the export that is moving those interactive elements to the front. So keep that in mind when you're building, even on this next assignment. If you are going to use navigation buttons, rather you make them yourself or you use these pre-formatted ones, you need to make sure that if there's text on top of the button that you make, that it is grouped together before applying that interactivity. If you don't have text and you're just using an image, again, it just needs to be anything that's going to show, is anything that has interactivity moves to the top. So if you have a button on top of a picture, that's fine because your button will be on top of the photo. But if you had some other element you wanted, I don't know why you would have anything other than text on top of these, but just keep that in mind that that could be what it is and it's in the grouping. All right, any questions? Well, fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and let you guys be released to get started on your project. I will stick around here in class until about 10:20 when we wrap up.